At 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke to silence, the kind that feels heavy, like it knows something you don't. I didn't realize then that by nightfall, my life would no longer belong to me. My name is Alice, and this is my story. The clock ticked softly on the wall of our riverside home, and for once, Martin wasn't snoring beside me. His side of the bed was cold, already empty. That was unusual. He hated mornings more than anyone I knew. I slipped on my robe and padded through the hallway. The smell of coffee drifted faintly from the kitchen, but it wasn't Martin's usual bitter brew. It smelled sweeter. Then I heard it. Laughter. A woman's. At first I thought maybe the TV had been left on, but when I stepped into the kitchen doorway, my heart stopped. Serena was standing there, in my kitchen, wearing my husband's shirt. Her hair fell in careless waves, her lips stained with the color of betrayal. And Martin? He didn't even flinch. "Elena," he said flatly, like I was a neighbor who had dropped by uninvited. "You're up early." I stared at them, at the coffee mug with lipstick on it, at the easy smile on her face. My fingers tightened around the edge of the doorway. "What is this?" I whispered. Serena's voice was cool, almost amused. "Oh, come on, you knew this wasn't working. We just decided to stop pretending the words hit harder than any slap could." Martin didn't look ashamed. He didn't even look sorry. "It's over, Elena. I've already moved my things out." Moved his things out, while I slept. I didn't cry, not then. My silence scared him more than tears ever could. I turned, walked upstairs, and closed the bedroom door behind me. Inside, the scent of him still clung to the pillows. For a moment, I pressed my face into them and let out a sound I'd never made before. Half scream, half silence. Downstairs, I could hear them leaving together. The front door clicked shut, and with it, 21 years of marriage vanished into the dawn. But as I stood there in that empty house, I didn't know that Martin hadn't just walked away from me. He'd walked straight into the trap of his own making, because what he thought he'd taken from me wasn't gone. It was waiting quietly where he'd least expect it. And by the time he discovered what I still had, it was already too late to take it back. People say heartbreak hits all at once, but they're wrong. It comes in echoes, each one quieter but sharper, like glass cracking under your fingertips. 2 weeks had passed since Martin left. The house was quieter than I'd ever known it, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the echo of his last words, "It's over, Elena." He had moved in with Serena, and Riverside's rumor mill spun faster than the clock on my mantel. Every neighbor suddenly felt sorry for me. Every smile came with pity disguised as politeness. I tried to busy myself, fixing the curtains, scrubbing the counters, pretending everything was fine. But the smallest things betrayed me. His coat hook was still empty. His favorite mug still sat on the shelf. One afternoon, I went to the bank to handle the joint accounts. That's when the real wound opened. "Mrs. Moore," the clerk said kindly, her eyes flickering toward her screen, "I'm afraid most of your shared funds have already been transferred." I blinked. "Transferred? By whom?" "Mr. Moore," she replied softly, "a week ago." The world tilted for a second. My hands tightened around my purse strap. He hadn't just left me. He'd emptied everything we'd built. That night, I found myself sitting on the living room floor, the old photo album open in my lap. There he was, younger, smiling, holding our first set of house keys. Behind that smile, I saw it now. Ambition without warmth. I had been in love with an illusion. But in the haze of despair, something small caught my attention. Inside the back of the album, tucked behind a yellowing photo, was a folded letter, old, sealed, and addressed in Daniel's handwriting. I frowned. Daniel Kingston, Martin's former business partner, who had died 2 years ago in what everyone called a sudden accident. I broke the seal. The letter was short, but enough to make my pulse race. "If anything ever happens to me, look into Kingston and Moore Investments' secondary account. Don't trust anyone, not even him." The handwriting trembled but clear. My heart pounded. Him. There was only one person Daniel could have meant. I grabbed my coat and keys. For the first time in weeks, the sadness was gone, replaced by a quiet, burning determination. Because sometimes betrayal doesn't end a story, it starts an investigation. I once believed the worst pain was being left. But I was wrong. It's realizing the person you loved was never who you thought they were. The next morning, I drove across Riverside under a dull gray sky. The city looked blurred through my windshield. Rain falling steady, almost cleansing. But inside me, the storm was just beginning. Daniel Kingston had been more than Martin's partner. He was his friend. When Daniel died, Martin gave a eulogy that made people cry, even me. He was like a brother, Martin said that day. Now, with that letter in my hand, those words made me sick. I reached Daniel's old office, now locked and dusty. The landlord, an elderly man named Mr. Briggs, recognized me. "Elena Moore, I thought you moved away after, well, everything." I smiled faintly. "Just looking for some old files of Daniel's." Martin said he left a few things behind. He hesitated, then handed me a ring of keys. "Room 3B. Take what you need. No one's been up there in years." The office smelled of old paper and stale air. Dust floated in the light like tiny ghosts. I found a filing cabinet labeled K&M Investments, private records. Inside, there were ledgers, receipts, and one folder marked Transfers 2021. When I opened it, my breath caught. Multiple wire transfers, large sums, all bearing Martin's signature. The destination? An offshore account under Serena's name. The final transfer date matched the week before Daniel's death. The realization hit me like cold water. Martin hadn't just betrayed me, he'd betrayed Daniel. And maybe Daniel had known too much. I snapped photos of every document on my phone. My hands trembled, but not from fear anymore. It was clarity. As I locked the door to leave, I noticed something else. An envelope taped under Daniel's desk. Inside was a USB drive labeled simply Truth. At home, I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing a video file. Daniel appeared, pale but calm. "If you're watching this," he said, "I was right to suspect Martin. He's been moving company assets illegally, and Serena's part of it. I've left everything needed for proof with my lawyer. Trust Elena. She'll know what to do." My throat tightened. Daniel had trusted me. And now, for the first time since Martin left, I had something he didn't. Power. The truth was finally in my hands. But exposing it meant stepping into the same danger that killed Daniel. Revenge wasn't my plan. Justice was. But sometimes the line between them blurs, especially when the person you're fighting used to share your bed. I didn't sleep that night. I watched Daniel's video over and over, memorizing every word, every detail, every timestamp. By sunrise, I had a plan. If Martin could lie to me for years, I could pretend for a few days. That morning, I called him. My voice was steady, practiced. "Martin, I think we need to talk. I found some of Daniel's old documents. You might want to see them." There was silence, then a cautious laugh. "Elena, why dig up ghosts?" "Because ghosts don't lie," I said. "Meet me tomorrow at the Riverside Cafe." Noon. When I hung up, my heart was pounding. I didn't know if he'd come, or if he'd try to stop me first. The next day I arrived early. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and rain. I sat by the window, the USB drive tucked safely in my purse. At exactly noon, Martin walked in. He looked different, sharper, colder, like guilt had sculpted him into someone unrecognizable. "Elena," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You look, well," I smiled faintly. "I've had better days." He leaned forward. "What's this about Daniel's files?" I watched his hands, restless, tapping the table. "Just some ledgers. Odd transfers, strange patterns. Looks like Serena's name pops up a lot. The color drained from his face, just slightly. You shouldn't go snooping into business you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. Daniel did too. Before he died, for a split second, the mask slipped. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowed. Then he laughed, but it was forced. You're imagining things. I reached into my purse, pulling out the USB. Then this should clear up my imagination. He froze. I stood, leaving the drive on the table. I already made copies, Martin. By now, Daniel's lawyer has everything. As I walked out, I could feel his eyes burning into my back, fear mixing with anger. Outside, the wind felt different, lighter, freer. But I knew it wasn't over yet. Men like Martin don't fall quietly. Because when you take power from someone who built their life on lies, they'll do anything to steal it back. Every storm runs out of rain, but before it ends, it destroys everything in its path. I didn't know it yet, but Martin's storm was about to break. 2 days after our meeting at the cafe, a black car stopped in front of my house. For a moment, I thought it was him. My chest tightened. But it wasn't Martin. It was Detective Hayes, the one who had handled Daniel's accident. He stepped out, holding a folder. Mrs. Moore, I received something from Daniel Kingston's attorney this morning. A USB drive and a statement with your name attached. I nodded slowly. I sent it. He gave me a look, half surprise, half respect. You might have just reopened a case we should have never closed. Inside, we watched Daniel's video together. The detective's face darkened as the footage played. This explains a lot. The transfers, the timing, even that night he closed the folder. We'll issue a warrant. But be careful, Mrs. Moore. Men like your husband don't go down without dragging someone with them. That evening, I stood by the window, watching the sun set behind the riverside skyline. The phone rang. Unknown number. I already knew who it was. Elena, Martin's voice cracked through the line, a mix of fury and fear. What have you done? Something you never expected, I said quietly. I stopped pretending. You think you can ruin me? He snapped. I didn't answer. I let the silence speak for me. Then came the sound of sirens, faint at first, then louder. He must have heard them too. Elena. The line went dead. A week later, the news broke. Martin Moore, CEO of Kingston and Moore Investments, arrested for embezzlement and fraud, linked to the death of his late partner, Daniel Kingston. I watched the report alone, a cup of tea cooling in my hands. There was no triumph, no smile, just relief. Justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. A soft knock came at the door. When I opened it, a courier handed me a small box. Inside was Daniel's old compass, the one he kept on his desk. A note was attached. To Alice, for finding the direction we all lost. I traced my fingers over the metal, whispering, "Thank you, Daniel." Outside, the sky cleared after days of rain. For the first time, the silence in my house didn't ache. It soothed. Because sometimes life takes everything from you,